Good evening, whakaala flahiatu, and welcome to tonight's bulletin of BCN News. Leading the news tonight, yesterday at the final sitting of the Whanokepule for the year, the Health Practitioners Bill was presented under a certificate of urgency by the Minister of Health, Honourable Sauni Tongatule, and by the afternoon it was passed into law. The Health Practitioners Act establishes a registration regime for health practitioners working in Newar. The law will allow for a board to grant annual practicing certificates for these health practitioners. The Assemblyman from Toi, Honourable Dion Taufitu, believes that a similar professional standards board should also be established for the education sector, where teachers have to be certified to teach. According to the Health Practitioners Act, the board is made up of the Chief Medical Officer, who will chair the board, the Chief Dental Officer, the Principal Nursing Officer, Head of Public Health, the Government Solicitor, and 2 independent members to be appointed by Cabinet. A person may only be registered as a health practitioner if the person meets the requirements. The list include dentists, medical imaging technicians, medical laboratory technicians, medical practitioners, midwives, nurses, paramedics, pharmacists, and physiotherapists. This certification process will also help practitioners so that they are not required to return to their respective countries or jurisdictions where they were qualified to be recertified. Anyone caught working as a health practitioner without certification in Newar will incur penalties as high as $30,000. The Health Practitioners Act will come into effect on the 1st of January next year. And less than 24 hours after the passing of this law, a video was uploaded to social media with the caption, "When the dog only charged by the rum." This was circulated on social media, causing some upset parents to contact BCN News. The video shows the person behind the camera holding clearly a bottle of alcohol, walking into the hospital emergency department where a doctor is in the middle of performing surgery on a little boy. Clearly visible is the face of this little boy with his genitals exposed in what looks like a circumcision in progress. The video has since been taken down. It was taken by the father of the little boy being circumcised, and he has taken full responsibility for the public reaction. The father apologizing for taking the bottle of alcohol into the hospital emergency department. In his letter of apology to the health department, he said that he took the bottle into the emergency department without the knowledge of the staff. Quoting from his letter, "I literally thought only in Newar, which has kind of been the culture here, and forgetting that there are protocols and rules in this profession. I'm messaging for damage control and want to try to make this right. The damage is done and was never my intention to get anybody in trouble." The Director General of Health and Social Services, Gayleen Tasmania, this afternoon told BCN News that this is clearly poor judgment on the father's part. But she had investigated the situation and found that the staff were not responsible. She says that she wants to assure that the staff are not implicated for something that they did not intentionally participate in. Kara Poihanga from the village of Makefu is the 2021 Ducks recipient for Newar High School. Kyra is the daughter of Petha and the late David Wake Poihanga from Makefu. She wants to pursue further studies in engineering.
And the Ducks for Newar High School 2021 goes to Kyra Poihanga.
Kyra has consistently topped her class at every level since starting high school. She dedicated her Ducks prize to her late father in her speech, where she thanked her family for their love and support. In second place is Alexine Lanihead from Lakepa, the 17-year-old daughter of Desiree and Hank Head. And in third place is Desio Junior Pavihi Soniholo, the 17-year-old son of Desio Soniholo and Esther Pavihi from Huihui Alofi South. This year, the government boosted the prize pool for the top 3 academic school leavers, with the Ducks recipient receiving $6,000. The second placing received $4,000 and $2,000 for the student in third place.
Congratulations and well done, Kara Poihanga, and of course to all the 31 students who graduated from Newar High School last week. And while we are still with education, the Minister of Education, Sauni Tongatule, says that the government is quite concerned at the cost of financing the career paths of those 31 school leavers from Newar High School. Most of these students will not be able to attend university next year, including the top 3 academic school leavers who were not eligible for the New Zealand scholarships. Minister Tongatule admitted the government's concerns at the prize-giving ceremony for Newar High School last Friday. Honourable Tongatule called on the business owners in the private sector to step up and help employ some of these school leavers, because he says the government may not be able to carry the full cost of employing the students. He also asked the New Zealand Government representative, Deputy High Commissioner Nigel Eales, about scholarship opportunities for some of these students. The situation should not have come as a surprise for the government, because they have known for some time how many students will be leaving this year. And in July this year, 4 students, these school leavers, were on the news highlighting what they say was an unfair New Zealand scholarship selection criteria to disqualify them because they were only 17 years old. The students asked the government to help them and to do something about the scholarship criteria. BCN News at the time sent questions and reached out to the Director of Education and the Minister of Education to respond to the students, but both the Minister and the Director did not respond. Of these 4 students, 3 of them were the top academic students this year for Newar High School, the Ducks recipient, the first and second runner-up. The high school prize giving was also the last time Director of Education, Berfa Tongahai, will speak to the students of Newar High School.
Let me extend my utmost gratitude to the principal, deputy principal, the extended management team, teachers and students for keeping the momentum and continuing to function well as normal despite these challenges. It is not easy functioning on free 11 weeks terms, but you manage to survive and thrive. Oe tultulo. Next year, you will be piloting the new NCEA literacy and numeracy standards. Best wishes and look forward to supporting you in this new venture.
Mrs. Tongahai is one of several public servants who will be retiring from the service this year. The traditional speech for the students leaving Newar High School this year was delivered by Sierra Sionetama from Tuapa. Sierra is the daughter of Pats and Sionipoko Sionetama. The Newar High School prize giving was a day of surprises, as Deputy Principal Moira Jackson announced that one of the senior staff of the school, Mr. Johnny Dangi, will also be leaving the school this year.
Johnny has been with Newar High School since 2006. And he has had an offer from a school, a secondary school in New Zealand, and he will be moving to New Zealand in the new year. But on behalf of the principal, the staff and students and the people of Newar, Johnny, would like to thank you. Thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts for everything that you have done for Newar High School. Whakau e lahi, Johnny.
The announcement came as a shock to some of the parents because Johnny Dangi is an integral part of the successful implementation of NCA at Newar High School. His departure will be concerning for some parents, especially those whose children will be starting Level 1 NCA in the coming year, as Newar High School will be piloting the new changes for NCA qualifications next year. Johnny Dangi was the principal's nominee and NCA coordinator for Newar High School for many, many years. And the government is reviewing the cost of fuel on the island and have announced that there will be an adjustment to the prices of diesel and petrol early next year. Here's more on that story. On Thursday last week, the government in a press statement announced its intentions to review and adjust Newar's current petrol and diesel prices in the new year. According to the statement, the government is responding to the global increase in the cost of oil. The last review and adjustment of Newar's fuel prices was in 2017, when petrol went from $2.59 per litre to $2.64 per litre now, and diesel went from $2.55 to $2.66 per litre. While the government is still working on how much motorists will have to pay for petrol and diesel on the island in the new year, BCN News did some research to find out how much petrol and diesel costs are in other countries. These costs are in New Zealand dollars. In New Zealand, the cost for 1 litre of petrol is $2.66 and $1.71 for 1 litre of diesel. Slightly cheaper in the Cook Islands with $2.36 per litre of petrol and $2.10 for 1 litre of diesel. In Fiji, motorists pay $1.90 per litre of petrol and $1.60 for 1 litre of diesel. In Samoa, fuel is cheaper with $1.78 for 1 litre of petrol and $1.72 for 1 litre of diesel. According to globalpetrolprices.com, the website which updates weekly the retail costs of fuel around the world, the country with the most expensive cost of fuel is Hong Kong, where 1 litre of petrol will cost a motorist $3.85 New Zealand dollars and $3.30 for 1 litre of diesel. Meanwhile, some people were expecting the new cost of fuel to be announced at the final sitting of the Whanokepule yesterday, but that was not the case. According to the press release from government last week, it intends to review and adjust Niue's current petrol and diesel prices in early 2022. Former Sergeant Hale Harry Ikitule passed away in Auckland on the 15th of November, and 4 weeks later he was finally laid to rest at his village Tuapa Uhomotu on Monday this week. He was 66 years old. Former Sergeant Hale Ikitule's children and family members delivered his eulogy, while Sergeant Ramona Romeo Jackson delivered his life of service, the report from the Public Service Commission. Former Sergeant Hale Harry Ikitule started his career as a police cadet when he was just 17 years old in 1973. He became a police constable in 1975, attending police courses starting at Tretham Police College in New Zealand until he returned to Newar in 1977. On the 21st of March 1988, he rose to the rank of sergeant. He was also a police prosecutor. In 1990, he suffered an injury on the job, and in 1994, he was one of the public servants to accept the government's offer of voluntary redundancy at the time. Former Sergeant Hale Ikitule served in the police force under one New Zealand resident commissioner and 4 chiefs of police. He worked under Chief Steve Brady in his last years in the police force. He served 21 years in the police force. Hale Ikitule was also very active in the church and village community of Tuapa. He was a long-serving member of the village council and of the Tuapa RSA community. He was a lay preacher, and in October of 2001, he became the head deacon, or the ulumotua, for the Hikutavake Ekalesia. Former Sergeant Ikitule was finally laid to rest in his beloved village of Tuapa Uhomotu on Monday this week. He passed away on November 15th, and since then his family have had to navigate through new travel protocols during these pandemic times. His wife, Whakatule, and their children, grandchildren, and other family members returned to Newar 2 weeks ago to comply with MIQ requirements, and Hale's body was flown in on Monday this week, just a few hours in church, and finally he was laid to rest. Former Sergeant Hale Ikitule is survived by his lovely wife, Whakatule, their children and grandchildren. And another former public servant has passed away, and former Director of Health, Dr. Sitaleki Fino. He passed away on Monday this week, December 13th, and was laid to rest at Purewa Cemetery in central Auckland yesterday. He was 72 years old.
Dr. Fino was Director of Health from 2006 until 2008. With Auckland still in the red traffic light system, the restrictions on gatherings, only 100 close family and friends were permitted at Dr. Fino's funeral. Among those 100 was our Dr. Colin Tukuitonga, who told BCN News that he considers Dr. Fino the original champion of Pacific Health. His great friend and colleague, Dr. Tukuitonga, said that they disagreed on many things but have enormous respect for each other. Dr. Sitaleki Fino is remembered as a creative and highly intelligent man who marched to the beat of his own drum until the very end. Dr. Fino is survived by his wife Eseta, the 3 adult children and 8 grandchildren.
And a first for Newar, Sydney Louis of the Newar Rugby Union is one of the new members elected into the Oceania Rugby League Executive Committee. Miss Louis was elected as one of the 3 other Pacific Islanders on this new board of Oceania Rugby.
At the 2021 Annual General Meeting on the 6th of December, Oceania Rugby elected Sydney Louis of the Newar Rugby Union as one of the general members of the Oceania Rugby Executive Committee. The president is Richard Sapias from Papua New Guinea. Elected general members are Sydney Louis from Newar, Dr. Kieran Keke from Nauru, and Isaiah Aulele from Tonga. The committee will serve Oceania Rugby until 2025. At the same annual general meeting, Oceania Rugby admitted Kiribati Rugby Union as associate member of Oceania Rugby.
An Australian yacht Sisu with 3 sailors on board were permitted into Alofi Bay yesterday morning on a technical fuel stop. According to the Chief of Police, Timothy Wilson, the crew of Sisu sent through an application for a technical fuel stop last week and was approved by Cabinet. The yacht was recently purchased in Tahiti and the crew was sailing the yacht to Australia when it encountered rough weather last week. It used up most of its fuel using its engines to get through the rough weather patch. 200 litres of diesel was delivered by the Chief of Police, accompanied by a customs official and immigration official to the yacht. The yacht and crew left Newar immediately after receiving the fuel on their way to the Blue Lane at Port Denarau in Fiji, where they will restock before travelling on to their final destination in Australia. Chief Tim Wilson said that all 3 crew members were double vaccinated and tested negative before leaving Tahiti about 13 days ago. To end the news tonight, even in these pandemic times when the borders are closed, no tourists are about, no families visiting, even show days still continue, even for the village of Vaea, where the community put on their annual village show day last Saturday. BCN cameras were there to capture some of the happenings of the day. And that's our bulletin of news for tonight. Please do join me on radio tomorrow from 11 until midday for the last program of News of the Week for the year. I'll have Premier Honourable Dalton Tangilangi as my guest tomorrow. But until Tuesday next week, when we will return with our BCN bulletin in Wangahau, Newar, you have a lovely evening. Good night.